The market doesn't know what keeps you up at night. It doesn't know when you want to retire, and it doesn't know how old you are. The simple truth is, the market doesn't care. But if you care, you've tuned into the right place. You're listening to Investor Resources, bringing clarity to the confusing world of finance. Here are your hosts of Investor Resources, Don Creech and Perry Sykes.
Thanks for being here with us this morning. I'm Perry Sykes. Don Creech is with us also, as usual. Like to remind everyone that today is December 7th. We'd like to give a shout out to all the veterans out there. Thank you so much from the days of Pearl Harbor. We would not be standing here today able to have this get together without the veterans that sacrificed so much for us and continue to do so today. So thanks to all the vets out there. We couldn't have done it without you. You're the only reason that America's still standing. Also like to mention to everyone that we've got a new corporate Facebook page, Investor Resources Facebook page. It's a very good place to stay informed as to what's going on out there with us and what's coming up. It has fresh content regularly. We'd appreciate it if you go there, go to Facebook and search for Investor Resources and follow our page. It helps us get the word out, and you'll get good information about what we're up to and upcoming events. Okay, let's go ahead, Don, and we will we'll move ahead here. We're going to talk about growth this morning. We touched on growth a bit last month. It's important to take a look at what kind of growth we have right now, how's it going, and why is it so good? Our growth is really good right now against many odds, and it's a good time to remember that there's a lot more to this than just the GDP number. You don't want to just look at GDP and say, oh, it's great, let's move on. We don't need to wonder about why growth is so good right now. And it's very important that we do that. We need to take a peek at that and make sure we can keep this going on. Productivity. The productivity gains have been impressive again. The growth in productivity has averaged 2.3% over the last 2 years, which is about 0.5% faster than in the 4 years pre-pandemic. And that may not sound like much, but that'll shave almost 10 years off in what it would take to double the GDP. So it's real growth, it's real productivity, and it's critical for our economic output and the growing market that we love to participate in. Comparing the labor productivity and growth, that next slide, Don, it's unbelievable almost. The U.S. stands out. We're better than anyone in the world. It's unlike, our productivity is unlike anyone else on the planet. It doesn't matter. Japan, Germany, France, Canada, everybody is well below what's going on here in the United States. And if you've noticed in the financial news, we hear about inflation often and all the underpinnings of inflation and where we are in the inflation picture. That's kind of become the dominant story. And productivity really needs to get launched to the top. It's a huge mistake to bypass what's going on with the productivity in the United States, especially for the Fed. They are laser focused on inflation and employment numbers, and they really do need to be equally concerned with productivity and maintaining the productivity level that we have right now. It's not something to take for granted by any case. In any case, there are many components to that. One of the big ones was new business startups. That's been absolutely startling since COVID, since the COVID recession. The amount of new businesses that have started has been absolutely amazing. And right when COVID came out, we really did get a huge increase in new business applications, the largest increase in the history of the country. And it turned out that a lot of those stuck, and we got new businesses with employees. That's critical. And more importantly, that pace of new business startups has stayed substantially higher than it was pre-pandemic. So that entrepreneurial activity that began in the COVID pandemic has continued on through. That's critical to the productivity of in our economy. This next slide, I apologize for. This is not a this is not a very clear slide, but you can see from between 2005 and 2020, there's been a pretty steady decline in the number of new businesses that are age 0 and up. And in that chart, that lower green line that is going up at a 60% angular, that's new businesses. That's age 0 firms that are starting. So there's a bunch still of brand new businesses. And that top line, the black line, that's new businesses that have employees. So those are businesses that aren't single person startups. They're hiring people, and those are on the increase again also. It is so important to notice when that happened. That huge spike happened during the pandemic, and all this data was aggregated by a former Fed governor, and they wanted to find out, to their credit, why is this going on? And they mentioned a couple of the possible causes, and the initial burst of business formation, which was early in the pandemic, really did appear to be a reaction to the large shift in economic activity in the United States because of our reaction to COVID, and especially the shift to remote work. There were a whole lot of opportunities to do things that had never been done before because there had never been a massive workforce that was staying home. And pandemic relief policies also appear to have had an unintended consequence of lowering the financial barriers to starting a business. We made everybody stay home, and we started sending everybody checks. And leave it to Americans, man. People started saying, well, you know what? I've been thinking about starting a business. I've got time and I've got more money than I had. I think now is the time to start a business. So there's evidence that those stimulus payments and other income support that came to businesses also actually started people starting businesses, and especially in areas where they had large minority populations, which are very often underrepresented as business owners. They were particularly likely to see an increase in applications, and it just shows how much, if you lower the barriers to business, people will go there. People will start businesses, and that is one of the keys to keeping an economy percolating, keeping everything robust. And so while we don't expect another round of fiscal relief, the checks have stopped and they're not going to start again, probably. But one lesson from the pandemic is that policies that reduce those barriers to entry have sizable effects on creating new businesses. We're hoping the incoming administration will apply those insights to deregulation agenda, which is coming, which is good. They were just mentioning that the current administration is leaving with a record level of regulations on the book. The number of government regulations runs currently 98,000 pages. 98,000 pages of government regulation. That can't be a good idea. And lowering entry costs and promoting competition through better regulation will support our productivity level. So we're hoping the Fed's going to be careful not to choke off the innovation with higher interest rates than are necessary. Now, there's no sign that they're raising rates right now. Nobody in the Fed is talking about raising rates, but rates still need to continue to come down to support this economic growth. The Fed has said the trend in interest rates is definitely going to be down. That needs to continue to support the productivity levels. That's one of the reasons we can grow out of the turmoil that the economy has been through. Another likely source in the pickup in productivity is a strong labor market during the recovery. The productivity pickup is not just about brand new innovative firms that people just started. It's also about workers moving to jobs that better match their skills. When that started up in 21 and 22, it was very disruptive. It's been named the Great Resignation. We've never had more people quitting jobs. And quite frankly, through all the economic analysts in the country, there was a mild panic that went through everyone. Why is everyone quitting their job? But until they realized, well, they're quitting their jobs to get the jobs they wanted. Those jobs became available because so many people were not going to work, and firms were hiring anyone who would show up, basically, and people were realigning the job they have with the skills they have. And researchers have pointed to that high churn rate of workers early in the pandemic as one of the key reasons for the upturn in our productivity. Um, New business applications, again, higher in industries in geographical areas with higher levels of job quitting. So, who would have thunk it? That job quitting was very important. It means a dynamic labor market is directly tied to a dynamic business environment. Employees need to have the confidence that they can change jobs and still be successful. You don't want to be frozen where you are and think, well, I really hate this job and I'm not really very good at it, but I'm getting a paycheck, so I'm not going to move. That becomes a big drag on the economy, especially after things are moving and you need to keep them that way. This is one of the things we need to make sure we keep looking at. Another remarkable thing about the worker movement, which explains why the US is so far ahead of the rest of the world in the productivity boom. The US, during the pandemic, we offered, of course, generous income support. We sent out those checks to everyone. But as a country, we did not prioritize keeping workers with their employers during the recession. Companies like Germany did that. They kept everybody in the same place. They decided it was best just to stay static and keep everybody where they were and then deal with things as they come out of it. Um, we instead, like we just went through, we said we allowed everyone to move around, and the rapid recovery and demand in the U.S. was met with many, many workers moving to a very much more productive job because it was more aligned with their skills and they were getting paid better. So we had we were getting people that are getting raises and were more productive at the new jobs they went to. So it was a win-win. So while it was scary for a while until we figured out what was going on, that's now looked at as one of the primary reasons that things got so much better here than in the United States. So one of the lessons about productivity gains is a dynamic labor market is central to a dynamic economy. Our labor market is cooling off a bit right now. It's gradual, but we need to watch that. The rate of employees who are quitting jobs, again, most often to move to a new opportunity, it's fallen back to about the same level it was in 2015 when growth was noticeably smaller, noticeably slower, and that quit rate doesn't show any signs currently of stabilizing. So it's not a dramatic weakening, as you can see in this chart, like during the recessions. But protecting that dynamic labor market needs to be a priority for everyone in the United States, not just the Fed, but the government policies going forward to make sure people have the opportunity to continue to change jobs to the ones that they're better at. The Fed over the summer correctly set, no further cooling in the job market as one of their priorities. So they're watching, they're paying attention to that, and it's good going forward. It's just a kind of counterintuitive that quit rate is a very effective way to see how dynamic the economy is at any given time, and are people moving to jobs that more closely align to their skill set. That's one of the things you can continue to watch. So we need to understand why our growth has been so exceptionally good in recent years. And we need to try to get away from, it's not about settling the score over fiscal and monetary policy. We took issue with a lot of the fiscal policy and the monetary policy of the last few years. We didn't agree with a lot of it, but we have, be, in spite of a lot of that, we have made great progress, and we need to make sure we find ways to sustain the progress we're living through right now. So both for the Fed and all policymakers, this is no time to sit back and get complacent. Everybody thinks, inflation's under control, the job market's strong, let's not do anything. But we really need to watch the labor market watch the rate of business formation. If those begin to slip back and the labor market becomes less dynamic, productivity and supply driven growth, it's going to slip back with it. And the US economy has come too far in the last few years to sit back and watch that happen. From the time that the economy was essentially closed during the pandemic, we have made extraordinary gains, mostly by, as usual, having the government just step aside and get out of the way and let the economy run. And hopefully we're going to do that. The Fed seems to be tuned in to the labor market effectively, and it's very important to watch, to make sure we don't start to choke off that dynamic labor market.